Hello F11 members and welcome to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 76, May 2018. So on the screen in front of you are some images that I shot in Cartagena in Colombia. You can read the behind the lens feature on that leg of the trip in this same issue of the F11 photography magazine. One afternoon, late afternoon, in the square there in the old town in Cartagena, I made this picture here, utilizing the spire of the cathedral there, with juxtapositioned with the this wonderful piece of shard of modern sculpture, a very strong graphic shape, and spent a fair bit of time waiting there for various pigeons to fly through the frame. And this picture here, I think has worked quite well in that I've caught the pigeon there, just in a nice part of the frame there. The light on the spire is good. But of course, I shot this with the long lens. You come down here, you can see I shot it with the 100 to 400mm lens at a focal length of 278mm. Now, with that shard in my foreground, quite close to the lens, getting the necessary depth of field at that kind of focal length was virtually impossible. So instead of trying to stop down to f32 and suffer the kind of diffraction problems that you do at those kind of minimum apertures and still struggle for the depth of field I needed, would have given me too slow a shutter speed as well, and the pigeon would have been blurred. So instead of doing that, I shot at f11. I used a polarizing filter, so I've got an ISO of 400 there to give me a shutter speed fast enough, 1/60th of a second, to record the pigeon. It's blurred, but nicely blurred. And so what I did then is 2 frames, one focused for the background and one focused on this one here, on the shard in the foreground. And I'm going to use the focus stacking technique that we covered a few months ago to merge these 2 pictures. Believe it or not, I had to go back and consult my own post-production video tutorial on how to do this focus stacking, just to remind myself of the technique. But it's really simple. So let's just start, as we always do, by processing the images in Lightroom, and this is an image that really won't need much attention at all. It's pretty much the perfect exposure there. My black point is good. I'm just going to adjust my whites a little bit, hold down the Alt key, move the white slider to the right until I can see where I'm clipping my highlights there. And I'm just going to boost my shadows a little bit because I want more detail here in the reflective area, the shard area of the picture there. So I'm going to boost shadows up to plus 70, round about a bit more. I'm using the key now to adjust the up and down key on my keyboard to adjust my shadows. I'm going to go up to 70 there. Okay, and what else do I need to do to that picture? It's pretty much there, I think. Just a touch more vibrance, I think. Just a hint. Okay, up to about 12 there. Good. So if I just now come down here to and copy those settings, it comes up with my copy settings window. Everything's ticked. So click on copy. And now if I just select, go back into library mode, come to the other image there, select that and paste those settings into that image as well. Now they've got identical settings. Now I'm going to open both images in Photoshop and merge them. But just one note before I do so, you'll notice I didn't touch my profile corrections here, lens corrections. I've got chromatic aberrations being removed. That's applied on import. I do that to every picture. As for profile corrections, if I click on and off the box here, you can see the effect has, and it brightens the corners really, as with all lenses. Just make sure it's got the right lens selected actually, which it didn't for some reason. Always worth checking that. So there, it's got the right lens selected now, and if I click on and off the profile corrections button, you can see what it does. In this instance, I think the slight vignetting, the slightly darker corners and brighter center works fine by me, so I'm not going to apply those profile corrections. Okay, so I'm going to now open the images in Photoshop and focus stack them. So here we are, I've got both images open now in Photoshop, and here's the one with the shard sharp, and here's the one with the background sharp. So next thing I'm going to do is stack them as layers. It doesn't actually matter which is on top of the other, but I'm going to take this one now, and using my actions here, select all the image, cut and close, click on that action, and now click on the action beneath it, which is going to paste that image on top of the other one. Click on that. And now if you look up here in my layers palette, I've got the two images stacked as layers on top of each other. Click on and off the eye to see the top layer and the bottom layer. It's easy to get very confused with layers. You just try and work in a logical way and stop and consider what you're doing. So the next thing we need to do is make sure these layers are aligned properly. So if I hold down Command on my keyboard and select both layers there in my layers palette, now if I come up to the top toolbar, Photoshop toolbar, where it says Edit, click on Edit, and I'm going to come down here and I'm going to ask it to auto align layers. Click on that and it comes up with this window. What do I want to do? Well, leave Photoshop to do what it does best. Leave it on auto, don't click anything else, and just click OK, and it's going to align those layers perfectly. Okay, that's that done. Now, with the layers still selected here, both layers still selected, I come up to Edit again and come down to Auto Blend Layers. And now I'm going to make sure that with this window here that Stack Images is selected, but this time I'm also going to ask it to go for a seamless tones and colors merge, and also content aware fill transparent areas. What that will do is where there's not perfect alignment of the images, i.e. where the edges don't perfectly align, because when we alter focus on a subject, the actual composition, the actual framing changes slightly. So you end up with just an edge around the picture, and it's going to use content aware fill to automatically fill that in. So I'm going to just click on OK there, and it's now working on that, blending the selected layers based on content and creating a seamless composition. So there, it's worked well, hasn't it? You can see that I've got the sharp shard here and the sharp tower beyond. There's one fly in the ointment with this picture though, and there's a bird in the background that hasn't really, that's distracting. I don't want that bird distracting attention from this bird, and it's not quite got the definition that one has. So I'm going to take that one out. Now, when I was just doing my practice for this tutorial, just running through what I was going to demonstrate, I got to this far and couldn't work out why my content aware fill wasn't working here. So if I come here and start trying to take the bird out, it's not doing anything. The reason being, when the merge did that automatic content aware fill around the edges, it's left that area. Can you see down the edge of the image here, that sort of hashed line? It's still got that area selected. So it took me ages to work this out. I've got to come up here, select and deselect there. Okay, so deselect everything there. And now what I want to do is just flatten this image down. Or I could work on, I'm going to work on the top merged layer actually, that's fine. Just zoom in, Command plus here, zoom in, move it to the area I want. Let's just clean up my workspace, move away the actions palette. I've got a second screen here, of course, with all my tool palettes on it. And now I'm just going to use Content Aware Fill is selected there. Adjust my brush size. I'm using a graphics tablet, so I can do that just with the wheel on my graphics tablet. And just now paint out that distracting bird. And that's done that quite nicely. Good, good. Such a useful tool that. Come out and look where we've got with this picture. That's it really. Nothing more required. With these kind of pictures, with this focus stacking, it's always worthwhile just checking your edges to make sure there's no ghosting around the edge, which can sometimes come through. So next thing I'm going to do is just bring my actions back in here, and I'm going to flatten the image. Move that back out, and now just check my edges to make sure that all is okay. And they're fine actually, so that automatic content aware fill did the job admirably. So it's really quite simple to do, this focus stacking. Useful technique. I don't use it a lot, but particularly when you've got these kind of long lens compositions with a lot of depth, it is a useful technique to be able to master. Okay, I hope that's useful. We did it before back in the autumn, but I think it's always worthwhile repeating these techniques with real life images. Okay, please do send in your suggestions for what you'd like to see in future video tutorials. Thank you.